Hi, AP Seminar, Mr. Muller here, and in this lesson, we're going to be talking about how to plan your research. If I'm giving you an argumentative assignment, whether that is a documentary or an essay or a music video or some piece of dramatic representation of an argument, how do you go about finding the information to craft a successful argument? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Hope you're excited. I'm excited. Let's get started. Now, the first thing I gotta let you know is most of the time your idea of research is actually wrong. What you're doing is you have a preconceived notion of what you're going to look for, what you're going to be researching, and you just go and you find anything that might possibly relate to what you've already decided that you're going to research or what your argument's going to be about. And that kind of narrow-minded thinking really limits the success of the argument that you can create. To really make a successful argument and research correctly, you have to keep the big picture in mind. Now, it's not about trying to find your answer or what you want. It's about finding the best possible solution or the best possible answer, the best possible proposal based on the research that you find. Because if you use lackluster research, you're not going to have a good argument. Now, the first thing that you probably want to do as you're trying to get research together is think about keywords as you're reading the assignment that I give you. If it's an essay or a presentation or some sort of dramatic piece, think about what kind of argument are you making. Are you doing a definition argument where you're going to have to define something? Are you going to be doing a causal argument where I want you to look at the causes of a certain event or a certain crisis or the causes of a certain social scenario in the world? Am I asking you to make critical judgments based on criteria? Evaluate how effective solar energy has been at limiting CO2 output in the world over the last 10 years? Am I asking you for a proposal argument where I'm asking you to take evidence to come up with a solution to a problem or try to convince people to do something? So when I'm giving you an assignment, first think about what I'm asking you to do. Instead of just jumping right in, don't Leroy Jenkins the situation once again. Just think about what am I asking you to do in this argument. Next, you need to think about who your readers are going to be. What knowledge will they already have? If they don't have a lot, you're going to have to give some background information on this. What preconceived notions do they have? What are their views on the argument you're going to be making? If you are going to be talking to a lot of people who think that the Earth is 6,000 years old and you're going to be talking about carbon dating, well, that's going to have to be in your mind as you're writing this argument. How long is the argument going to be? What are the requirements going to be? If I'm only asking you to write a 3-page essay, you're not going to do as extensive of research as if I'm asking you to write a 20-page essay. So you have to think about, well, what is the requirements and how much research would be appropriate for that? After you've done all that, you've kind of gotten the lay of the land, you've figured out what you have to do, what kind of argument it is, what your readers are, what the requirements are. Make a schedule. It's the old phrase, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. If you just think you're going to do it and you haven't set a schedule, then you've really got nothing hanging over your head that will try to motivate you to do this research. So set dates on finding your sources and then annotating, evaluating which sources are going to be good for you. Making your thesis. Now this would be a working thesis because as you're writing, your thesis may change as you continue to do more research. Set dates on your bibliography or works cited page and your first draft. This will give you a timeline for you to work on because honestly, you're going to have a lot of other things going on in your life. You want to make sure you have a schedule here. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Now, after you've created that schedule, now you're going to try and find, no, not your thesis statement, you're just going to find a subject, a topic, an issue that you're going to be looking for. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to browse. You're just going to go around through different databases and sources and just read. When I took my history courses in college, we would just get an assignment of write a paper about something in this 100-year period. And so I would think about, honestly, I go through our class notes, I go through our readings and think about what I really enjoyed. For instance, I really enjoyed learning about Napoleon, so I started reading a lot about Napoleon. I started reading about all his campaigns. Then I thought about, oh, I really like his campaign in Egypt. There's really not a lot written about that. And so I started looking into that. I started buying books on the subject. I didn't just immediately say, here's exactly what I'm going to be looking at. I started broad, looked through the information and sources that I had to develop a subject. Now you can also look on your library website. Yahoo Directory or Google Scholar or Google Research are really great sources for trying to find these subjects. Again, you're not trying to find something specific, just look for a general topic. Now, as you are looking at these books or sources, ask questions. In fact, what I would do is write down questions on Post-it notes and put it in those books, because as you're asking those questions, that's going to develop your research question that you're now going to narrow your research to. Honestly, the best arguments are the ones that are interesting. And so if you write a question and you think this question is interesting, then chances are your readers are going to. If you are looking at a topic that's boring, or if you're going to try to answer a boring question, we're not going to be interested. Now, as you're doing that preliminary research, as you're writing down possible questions that you're thinking of as you're reading these sources, you're eventually going to identify a question for your research project. It's a researchable question. No, this is not a thesis. This is just what you are now going to focus your research on. Instead of looking broadly at a topic, you're now going to narrow it. So here's an example. Let's say the broad topic we were looking at is organic food. And I'm reading a lot of different sources about organic food, and I'm writing down questions on the side. And I pick a couple that I think would be a good research question. So here are three. How do farmers benefit from growing organic produce? Why are organic products more expensive than non-organic products? Are Americans being persuaded to buy more organic products? Out of all those that I might write down, I'm going to choose one. So maybe why are they more expensive? And now I'm going to start to look at research much more narrowly in that researchable question. Now, what happens if I really can't find much research on it, or it's not really credible? Then I go to another one of the questions that I had. Never get so rigid that you can't change your research if you're not getting the best sources for it. Now, how do you get these sources? What different kinds of sources and research can you do? Well, the first is secondary research. This is basically analysis of primary research. So it is analysis of an experiment that was done in a lab. It is analysis of a historical period, looking at multiple sources from a particular battle. Primary research is looking at the original documents. It's the original letters by George Washington. It's the original experiment done by Stanford University. It's the original notations of J.R.R. Tolkien when he's writing The Hobbit. There are also original experiments and results. So primary is by the people doing it at that point. Secondary research is the analysis of that. Primary research is always a little bit stronger than secondary research because it's coming straight from the source. Secondary research is really good to corroborate what that primary research or the primary sources were. Also, you can do field research. You can actually do original research. For those of you who plan on getting a doctorate, that is mostly field research. So different examples of that could be surveys. You can do a Google form or a Survey Monkey to get information from a group of people. You can conduct interviews with different people or experts in a field to get particular information from them, or you could just do detailed observations. Now that would be from more of a STEM base, but you can do field research to gather information about that researchable question. So once you have done that, and once you've narrowed your research and you're doing all those annotations, you're doing summaries of those arguments, just so that you can get some good senses of what's going on here, now you're going to try and draft a working thesis. A working thesis means it's not final. That means you might do a little bit more research later on. You might find that some of your thesis is not really strong and needs to change. It's just it's a flexible thesis. And the reason why you do that is so now at least you have your base, so you can start working on that product or that essay for that argument task. Now, once you write that down, you're going to have some note cards. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples in class for you to do that. In fact, I may make a video for that as well on how to do research note cards. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to put the subject, your research question, and your working thesis, just so you can see how it all breaks down. If you can see the flow of it, it's going to make you much more organized and efficient as you are researching. Now, one thing that I did when I was researching for my history papers is once I had a researchable question, I'd buy books and I'd look through my electronic databases all on those particular subjects. What I'd do is I'd annotate those books and papers. So I'd have all these annotations for maybe 10, 20 books. Then I would go through all those annotations, pick out really important points I think the author was trying to make. I would actually write all those down on a Word document. Then I would be able to organize, maybe I have 15, 20 pages of quotes or research or data or statistics. And then based on that, I would look at my researchable question, look at the best annotations that I had, and then use that to develop my working thesis. Now the reason why that's really great is I have the working thesis that's based on this research that I did. I didn't try to go in with a thesis and try to make my research fit it. I made my research create my thesis. So that actually ends our video on planning research. Hope you learned something you didn't know before. Thanks for watching.